mistake of my life. I just should have waited. I thought to myself at the time, I even told Guy, I said, there's no doubt I feel like this was created in this virus in a lab in Wuhan, China. I have little doubt about that. And I figured, I'd rather take my chances with something we created than something they created. Remember when I told you that, Guy? Because I was scared. Again, my doctor told me with lymphoma and being under chemo that if I got this thing, it could be ugly. Let's just leave it at that. Stupid. Why? I watched this clip from the Tucker Carlson show citing some research coming out. Again, time has now passed and we're starting to see things. It's really the most troubling minute 20 seconds I've had to listen to in a long time because I'm scared of what's coming. I had it a little while ago and I'm afraid the repercussions of this for a lot of people have not been felt. Here, check this out.
To neurodegenerative disease, myocarditis, Bell's palsy, liver disease, impaired adaptive immunity, impaired DNA damage response, etc. So it's possible, in fact, it's looking likely that the vaccine might suppress the immune system. This fact, the authors concluded, will, quote, have a wide range of consequences, not the least of which include the reactivation of latent viral infections and the reduced ability to effectively combat future infections, end quote. Now, again, we sincerely hope that's not true. But it's not just the conclusion of one scientific journal. The Lancet, maybe the most famous scientific journal in the world, released similar findings in February. The Lancet's piece was entitled, quote, risk of infection, hospitalization, and death up to 9 months after a second dose of COVID-19 vaccine. A physician called Kenji Yamamoto made this observation about the data from the Lancet. He wrote this in a letter to the Journal of Virology, and we're quoting, the study showed that immune function among vaccinated individuals 8 months after the administration of 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccine was lower than that among the unvaccinated individuals.
Folks, science is patient. Science is long-term. Science is chronological. Science is the repeating and replicating of data through process, through control groups. Science is the elimination of confounding variables. All these things take time. Now, whereas I understand we were in an emergency situation with COVID, no emergency situation should lead a company or a government to force people to take something, to force them to take something that may in the long run damage their bodies. Greatest regret of my life.
The virus is not going anywhere. We're still having increased cases of infection. We're going to have long COVID around for a long time. So this is just going to have to be part of the conditions that we treat. So long COVID is the persistence of symptoms that can be a wide range of things that continue for at least 8 weeks after the acute period of COVID. So the acute period is 28 days. So essentially what that means is if you've got symptoms that extend beyond 12 weeks and they're not explained by another condition and they're there now and they weren't there prior to COVID, or at least they're worse now, that's defined as long COVID by the World Health Organization definition. Unfortunately, it's increasing because we look at a term called prevalence of a condition. So prevalence means that at any one time, how many people suffer from this condition. And because long COVID is a chronic condition, it seems, it's there for at least 3 months, as I said, and for many people it persists for many months and in some cases years. You'll find some variability in the numbers of how many people go on to long COVID. Conservatively, it's probably 5%. In some populations, higher than that. In Australia, there's been 9 million Australians that have had COVID. Most of those people have had COVID this year, in 2022. So if we said 5% of 9 million, then you can do the maths on that and you'll see that's a lot. I'm not sure that if there's a typical long COVID patient, because what's very clear is that the symptoms of long COVID are really different. And the patients are also really different. But the people that we're seeing in our clinic here at St Vincent's tend to be younger people, sort of 20 to 50, and the female to male ratio is in preference for more females. And that's what we're seeing in the literature as well, in the studies. The earlier versions of the virus were more likely to cause long COVID than the later versions, even when we sort of adjust for vaccination, because we know that the alpha and beta versions of the virus, when they were around 2020, we didn't have any vaccine, so everyone that got them, wasn't vaccinated. But with Delta, we see that people that got Delta were more likely to develop long COVID than people that have had Omicron. So it seems that Omicron is not only less virulent to cause severe disease and end up in hospital acutely, but it also seems that it's less able to cause long COVID. So that's some good news, but the bad news is that it's more infectious. So because it's more infectious, it's able to infect more people, and more people means those numbers go up. By definition, they experience it for at least 3 months because they have to have had symptoms for 3 months. In the data that we collected for the ADAPT study in an largely unvaccinated population in 2020, we saw that there was about 40% of people that had long COVID symptoms at 4 months, and that reduced to 30% by 8 months. So 10% spontaneously got better in those 4 months, but 4 months is a long time anyway. And that's what we're seeing in clinical practice. So the patients that I've cared for more than 2 years after their COVID, in general terms, they're all better than they were 2 years ago. So things all get better generally, but it's glacial. Like the pace is glacial. It all happens really slowly. Some symptoms seem to get better quicker than others. So for example, loss of taste and smell, which seems to happen less commonly with Omicron compared to Delta, but still can happen. These symptoms seem to go away quicker, so that's good news. But other symptoms, particularly fatigue, which is more innocuous and difficult to measure, that can go on for longer. There's some very important similarities to chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID, in the sense that it's a chronic condition, it's difficult to measure, and if someone has an experience and you can't say that they don't have that experience, you've also got to look at, it's a diagnosis somewhat of exclusion, which means that there's some tests that we need to do to exclude depression, to exclude thyroid dysfunction, poorly controlled diabetes, terrible sleep apnea. All of these conditions that can give you fatigue. So until you do those tests, you can't just say, oh, it's chronic fatigue or it's long COVID. So that's very similar. But what I would point out is that there are important differences. In terms of like influenza or rhinovirus, these other common respiratory viruses, they do not in large part cause these chronic symptoms in so many people or in any person. The example that I give is a patient that was really sick with influenza, in hospital with pneumonia. I would typically tell that person, look, you're going to take probably a month to get over this. Allow yourself a month. But I'm not telling them you're going to take 3 months to get over that, right? So that's for a pneumonia that someone ends up in hospital with. So the idea that a respiratory virus takes 3 months to get over, this is completely different. This is not business as usual. And the research shows that as well. So, other coronaviruses, we've tested them and looked at the immune response months and even a year down the track, and it's not switched on, whereas the one with COVID, people with COVID have their immune system switched on and dysfunctional a year later. Like, we can measure that in the laboratory, we can get blood samples, we can look at those cytokines that are abnormal. And the next thing that we need to do is work out how we can change that dysfunctional immune system.
Because they're doing a process of continuous improvement refinements. Final slide, and they're still talking. Pierre Corey, Paul Merrick is the head of the FLCCC Alliance. Dr. Paul Merrick is the second or third most peer-reviewed published doctor in medical history. second or third, I can't remember which one, in history. The entire team of the FLCCC Alliance is the most peer-reviewed team in history that have been on this for 2 years. 2 years now. Not only the virus, per se, when it came out as treatments, going, hey, we have treatment protocols here to help people. They've been before the Senate multiple times. Their team includes doctors that are very well known, Dr. Bean, Dr. Robert Malone. Gosh, there's so many. It's like when I get put on the spot, sometimes I don't remember. But this is from my heart, guys. I've been doing this because I was fortunate enough to get on the teams from the very beginning. They welcomed me in because I was able to share as not only as a patient, someone who was in pharmaceutical, who was a paramedic, ALS, who understood pharmacology, anatomy and physiology, who understood what drug cocktails were, who understood how to manage signs and symptoms, how to report signs and symptoms, how to battle through this. I did not have a quit in me, and I still don't, and I won't. But the indignity, the injustice, the amount of people who died that I've had to witness die, it's incredible. And the amount of, I don't know, from doctors and from long haulers who've been gaslighted by these doctors. These guys are heroes. Heroes. They're heroes to the whole damn planet for what they've been trying to accomplish. Because they're battling a monster. They're battling Thanos like I am every single day. Big Pharma, FDA, NIH, Fauci, the whole fucking gang of them. Bill Gates. They're evil as evil can be. And so help me God, they will get their day in court. Or, I mean, if you see the crowds that are out there now, they're out for blood. There are people out for blood for these guys. So I don't know. If I were them, I'd just say, just take me to jail now and we'll have the trial, because I'd be worried for my own safety of those guys. It's not a threat for me. Last thing I want to do is threaten anybody. Sorry, I'm trying to turn this off. The last thing I want to do is see any more death. I've seen enough. I've seen enough. They've seen enough. It's disgusting how many people these. This is awesome, and I can't control my own little device. This is I'm on Apple. I hate Apple. Stop. Well, now they brought in some more people. Now it's Zoom. All right, I'm leaving. I have shared nothing but the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help me God since day one of this. I told you guys we all had 99 problems, and COVID was going to be one for a long time. And I meant it, because I seen what was going on behind the scenes. I seen the research teams, some of the brightest, most caring people in the world, lose friends and family because they didn't care. They knew that the fire was before them, and they kept going in to try to save as many people as they possibly can. Me including, and I have survivor's guilt because I know there's some people I could have saved if I could have just got to them. That's the paramedic in me. That's the first responder. That's the person who knows that early treatment can save lives. And somehow these yahoos managed to control you guys, to manipulate you. And right now we're dealing with the loss of children, right? And so moms, I understand your pain. But if you heard what he just said and you listen, and they're telling you to inject your babies with a toxic spike protein, that can cause all kinds of damage. What is wrong with these devils? Makes sense of the madness, because these people and us and the teams, we have done everything in our powers to forewarn you of what was coming. And now it's here. And it's, oh God, is it here? And I get it. No one wants to talk about a subject like this. I've had to, because in my conscience, I could not walk away from the walking wounded. It's what EMS training was all about. You go to scene safety, make sure you're good. And then if there's multiple people, you have to triage these individuals, stop the bleeding, stop whatever's going on, stabilize them to get them to more treatment so they can survive. So early treatment saves lives has been inbred in any paramedic ever to serve in this damn planet. Any doctor who ever put a pill in a person's mouth knows that early treatments when a patient is ill can save a life. How Dr. Fauci ever got his hands and his mouth in front of the American audience the way he has and known he was lying through his teeth, because we can pull up on the NIH's own website drugs and treatments and protocols that we are sharing, have been sharing, that they knew about from 2005. How did they know about that? Well, because in 2002 was the original outbreak of the coronavirus. Not the original, but our original version of the coronavirus. So from 3, 4, and 5, they were researching the hell out of this because they wanted to make sure they knew at that time treatments. And all these wonderful drugs were available and still are to this day. IBM, which has been blocked on social media, and I'll probably get banned and put in jail for another 60 days on Facebook because I shared that name. It's the safest drug on the planet. It's the safest taking aspirin. It's on the WHO's list of essential medications. It won the Nobel Peace Prize 4 years ago. So how they managed to demonize and turn you guys off of just one of many known drugs and treatments that could have saved someone's life is beyond me. And you guys are going to get mad. You're going to see more and more data come out. You are going to see more and more of these doctors. They don't care anymore. Early on when I was talking and trying to get this word out, everybody go, where are these doctors at, Dan? I'm going, believe me, they're there. But they're not going to share and lose their license or go against the system. The research teams, a lot of them worked directly with the NIH, for crying out loud. They were funded, but if they were to go public and tell you what they were seeing, they were done. So I was a messenger. I have been a messenger through these people who I call myself Forrest Gump. I make fun of it because I was dealing and still dealing with some serious issues with my memory. Part of it was from an accident. The other part was from the virus. It's all documented out there. And to fight to get back to where I could talk, have a two-way conversation, not just words coming in my mouth and not hearing what was coming back because there was a disconnect. Those things are slowly coming back, but that's through cold laser therapy and other treatments that I've been trying to get to help others because I know other long haulers are going, how the hell can this guy do this? It's 2 years later and he's still, no, I suffered. My lungs at nighttime flare up. I feel like I've smoked cigarettes for 50 years. We talk about aging, long COVID, and it's documented now. In the long hauler rooms we knew early on, people like, do you feel like you've aged 20 years? And it's true. Like they got the science now to go behind it, going, yeah, it's speeding up the clock. Why? Because the immune system is fighting. It's fighting for its life like you wouldn't understand. This is why the clotting, strokes, all these other downstream effects are happening because you have a battle inside your body going on like you're running a damn track meet. And until they get some treatments to put out the fires, the inflammations that are going in, these viral outbreaks, flare-ups, whatever you want to call it, man, we could talk for 10 hours straight. I could probably on all the things that we know about long COVID, post-vax injury. Because what was crazy is we seen the vaccine. We knew ahead of time from the original trials, the very original trials, the one where they put 40,000 people in, that they chose the healthiest of the healthiest people. They did. They cherry picked, right? And then in the trials, they were having mysterious deaths, Bell's palsy, Epstein's virus, EBV. They were reporting all this, and they halted the trials. And if you don't believe me, go to hope4humanity2020.com, and you'll see where all the trials were halted. It was reported in the news. They didn't change a single thing, and then they released the mRNAs. So at best, they knew at the very beginning. At worst now, they've known for at least 8 months through VAERS and other reporting that there's been a big, big problem with what rolled out. And to act like they don't know is insanity. So on top of that, these people are out there. They are the walking wounded. They are sick. They are basically got both feet in the ground at the moment, trying to get out of it, and they're not getting any treatments. There are no protocols. Zero, besides what you're hearing through the FLCCC Alliance or some of the other doctors that are in the know now. And then you're hearing other things that I'd known since the very beginning, that this was a bioweapon. When you have a bioterrorist expert, on your team and a few other government officials that were working on these teams telling you what you need to know, going, holy shit. And then the media is doing their job of serving their masters by just completely bold-faced lying to you about these things. And then they push these therapeutics that were never used on humans, and now they're sick and not do anything. What in the hell can these jackals be doing to make it any better? Nothing, except have more events going on that keep us off what is going on as a big picture. Food shortages, baby formula shortages, mass shootings. I mean, you name it, it's been 2 years of pure hell for any one of us that if you've gotten through this without some type of traumatic experience happening at least once, then good for you, because I want some of what you got. Maybe it's drinking every day. I can't drink, so I'll just act like I'm drinking. These doctors and these teams are heroes. I'm telling you, and we are living in living history. If we expect to be able to get off the ground and to beat Thanos, to beat the devil that they put out on us, to be able to get past this, to save your mothers and your aunts and your uncles, to understand signs and symptoms. They're having a stroke and they're 22 years old, for crying out loud, it's not normal. If they're having myocarditis, heart inflammation, and they feel like they're having a heart attack at 28 years old, it's not normal. Unless they're doing cocaine and Molly and ecstasy and some other stuff. Like, you have to really push the human body to make the things that are going on happen. It is not normal for children to have black and blue toes, COVID toe. It's not normal for the mental health population of the entire country to shoot 5-10 times higher than what they've normally seen. And then we're not reporting on that because, well, hell, we want to alert the public that we got schizophrenics and people that are basically losing their minds because of the bodies. They're leading to this. When they talk about mast cell activation, what that is an allergic histamine response. It's like having a peanut allergy. And any mother who has a child with a peanut allergy knows it could just be around, it could kill them. Well, I think what's going on, based off of the science that keeps showing up with mast cell activation and some of the other parties that have participated in the protocols that we know about, is they talk about intermittent fasting. That's one. But two, you're going to start hearing more about carnivore diet or straight meat diet, Atkins, keto, anything that's going to stick to a straight protein, keep away all the junk foods, per se, that can cause a histamine response, could probably stop about 80 to 85% of these mast cell activations. This is why these mast cell activation doctors that are jumping on board are helping by saying, all right, you got to get the histamines out. You can either take an antihistamine, which is more drugs, to alleviate the signs and symptoms, like you would with an epinephrine pen, like an EpiPen, or you can change your diet. It's the same thing with people who are diabetic, and they're finding that more and more people are becoming diabetic. Well, it's because the body's becoming allergic to glucose, to glycol. There's this. So now what we're eating, we're allergic to, we don't even realize it. So we're literally killing ourselves with food that pre-COVID was not toxic to us, but now it is causing a toxic effect to the body to where you are accelerating the inflammation factor in the body. So now you have to start thinking a little more logically of what you're putting into your mouth, which is extremely difficult because everything around the grocery store is designed to fatten you up or, whatever it is. And that is the last thing you need to do when your immune system is compromised. They mentioned immunocompromised so many times, and they're alleviating to what's going on for the bigger point. When the body continues to fight, when the immune system is fighting 24/7, 7 days a week, times month after month after month, you do not have a finite amount of resources. You just don't. Your body does not. You can supplement it, you can boost, but if you're not doing those, you are going to run out of resources. Your T cells are going to be depleted, and now you'll be immunocompromised, which means anything could possibly get you sick. And they know this. I don't know why these doctors don't know to tell you this in any other way than how they say it, but it is a human immunosuppressant virus. It is suppressing the immune response because it is wearing the immune system out. It's like Rocky Balboa and Mr. T going at it. After a while, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. So if you're not putting out the fire, if you're not finding these protocols, changing your lifestyle habits, your food habits, I'm not going to tell you to get up and exercise, because if you're a long hauler or you're post-vaccine injured, if someone's telling you to jump and do jumping jacks and whatever else, they're trying to put you in the grave. Now, what I mean by that is, if you had a car with 500,000 miles on it, busted tires, no brakes, and I said, hey, let's go take a trip from Florida to California, you'd be like, you're out of your mind. Well, it's the same thing that's going on with your immune system. So you've got a 400,000 mile, 500, 500,000 mile vehicle now that needs new tires, brakes, tune-up, blood transfusion. There's a bunch of things that could happen before you would take that step of, hey, let's go out and exercise. Promise you. Save yourself a stroke or a heart attack. Now, what's going on with the clotting? Well, I told you guys in the very beginning, when you're carrying this virus, it's got a jumping gene. And this is how it's able to evade the immune response a lot of the time. You can go from your RNA to your DNA and back. This is part of the human immunosuppressant part of it. It was already in its little wheel of knives. It's a Swiss Army knife, per se, of abilities to attack. That's just one of its little stealth mechanisms that was built into it. But so your system is chasing the virus around. It's trying to get it, son of a bitch. And it's like, okay, once it realizes we have a big enough immune response, it goes and it hides in soft tissue and the inner lining of your stomach. These are things that we've known 2 years. Inner lining of your stomach, soft tissue, knees, hands. This is why your joints become so depleted, where you're like an 80-year-old with rheumatoid arthritis, because it's attacking into joints. It's causing onset arthritis. Instant. You become like lupus patients. I'm hearing autoimmune through the roof. I'm going, they're misdiagnosing you. It's post-viral syndrome. It's from the virus. The virus is attacking your immune system. If you already had some type of immunocompromised issue, it's going to accelerate that. It's like just throwing gasoline on it. These are things we have known. It's not been hidden. Like, I've tried to share, but I guess we're catching up. Everyone's finally catching up to, oh God, maybe you were right. Well, no shit. Man, this guy's persistent. Why is he? It's not like I was just going, oh, I hope something happens. The science was the science. The experts were screaming at the top of their lungs, forewarning you, foreboding you, saying, please, just do your own research. And because you're watching TV, or whoever your celebrity of the choice was that's telling you it's safe and effective, go do your part. It was repetitive messaging, peer pressure, stomped with fear, took people out of their own right mindset. They were either forced by their job to get something they didn't want because of their careers, their family. It's an endless amount of reasons why. So I don't look at someone who's had an MRA as, I look at you as a victim like me. If you're suffering long COVID issues or post-COVID vax injured issues, I'm not judging you here. I'm going, we're on the same boat here. The SSS Titanic that they put us on, well, it doesn't matter what class you're in, we're still in the same boat. I'm not your enemy. I'm your friend. I'm the person who's been a messenger the whole time going, listen, I swear to God, a stack of Bibles, what I'm telling you is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help me God. Please just take a minute to listen and share, like, comment, whatever. And social media has been going, no, block, shadow ban, make sure no one can listen to them. Like, it's insane. I've had 3 TikTok accounts. I've been blocked and banned on YouTube for almost 2 years, but I somehow figured out how to slip another account in, but I haven't really been using it. I have a Rumble account. I guess I should start using that more, but I don't know what else I can do. I'm trying to treat myself, help myself continue to recover so I can help others. Because if I'm no good, I'm no good to you guys. And this isn't going anywhere. I said we got 99 problems. COVID's going to be number 1, and it is. Monkeypox is right behind it. Other opportunistic viruses or pathogens, bacterial, fungi, anything that has been run around normally. Not only people like me, are suffering, but they keep jabbing people. They keep weakening, dampening their immune system. So the entire, remember how they talked about herd immunity? Well, they're doing reverse herd immunity. The more we keep vaccinating the population, the more we are dampening their immune responses, the weaker we're getting as a herd, which gives these other viruses opportunities to get inside of us because our shields are coming down. That's what's going on. This is why the UK and Israel are the fire setters. They're the ones that did the most amount of inoculations first. Now the fire has been starting there, and it's carrying over to the other vaccinated countries or RNA synthesized countries. I didn't ask for this. You didn't ask for this. I'm telling you, this is what's going on, and this is what the science keeps showing them. They're not going, that's what we're going to talk about today. Grab a thing like that ESPN commercial and throw a damn dart and go, oh, that's what we're going to talk about today. No, we don't have an option. What we do need to start talking about is early treatments saves lives. Early treatments saves lives. What are your protocols that you're using to treat post-viral syndrome? I don't care what virus you want to throw on it. They're all a virus. So treat it like a virus. Do you have a antibiotic, doxycycline, zithromycin, throw in a little ivermectin, throw in a zinc? Like there's cocktails that, boy, you put them in the human body when it needs it most. And it's like bringing in the special forces for the immune system. It'll kick the dog shit out of those viruses. It'll give your natural immune system a break to help you recover. And wow, you just might make it. Instead, the whole bullshit of we only got one thing for you, which is right here, and nothing else is done, because any pandemic, one of the 4 pillars of the pandemic has been early treatments. Not vaccination when the virus is running, early treatments while the virus is running. Once you figure it out after it's done its course, if you can create a real vaccine, then you do it. And this is where, I got to write some of these names down so I can remember them. But there was a former Pfizer vax expert. He worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, too, our friends. And he's been sharing day one. No, you guys are doing this completely wrong. And he'd been put as the black sheep of the family of the people in his peer group because he was sharing the truth. While everybody else is taking money as hand over fist, he was trying to save lives. His name's Gert Van something or another. So I might have a small audience thanks to shadow banning these days and whatever, but it's not me trying to get an audience. It's me just sharing a message. I'm faith-based through God, created Hope Number 4 Humanity 2020.com in May of 2020 because we knew what was coming down the pipe. And I knew that Christians, supposedly Christians, there's 2.7 billion of you, would unite around someone who is faith-based, who's been sharing the work through the eyes of God, per se, through the voice and representation of Daniel as a messenger in the Bible, to help his others. But in the narcissistic society that we've become in, where everybody's doing me, and not we, it's been extremely hard, especially when you have friends who will not speak publicly for you, but behind the scenes are constantly hitting you up asking for advice, or hitting you in your DMs going, hey, What about this or what about that? I'm going, what about sharing publicly? What about being a part of the solution and not the problem? What about donating to the charity or talking about Hope House and what we're accomplishing? You know, it's going to be a treatment center and hopefully centers that I can show proof of treatment and recovery and take that to our Governor DeSantis, because I know a few people in that office, and maybe, just maybe, if we can get this Long Haulers Act approved and that Long Hauler Health Care Act tied in with Vax Injured, because we're both in the same boats, we're both dealing with a lot of messed up stuff, that we can be a part of a national, at least a state. I'll take the state of Florida as far as a recovery zone. Like, you come to the state of Florida and you show these centers can help treat you. That'd be fine by me, Mike. And then if other states want to follow DeSantis and the rest of them, great, because that's the end of the game, is to help everyone. And if they want to adopt these protocols across the globe, more power to them. Jabbing people to death is not going to be a solution to this problem. We got 99 times 100 problems right now with everything else that's coming downstream, as these guys like to say. The food shortage issues, that insanity. I confirmed it. I reached out to the people I know in the government sectors to go, is this really going on? And, oh, yeah. Who's pulling the strings? Who's president? Who's vice president? Who's the governors of the states that are allowing this stuff to happen? Not our governor. Thank you, Jesus. But it's not political. I could care less. R-I-D, R-I-P, to me, it's the same thing. If we don't get our clown show together, come together as a people and a society, we are in some serious shit. And they wanted it, whoever they is, because I know that, you know, there's the Great Reset, the Schwab dickheads, the other forums. Oh, I see. See that blocked.
Take of my life. I just should have waited. I thought to myself at the time, I even told Guy, I said, you know, there's no doubt I feel like this was created in this virus in a lab in Wuhan, China. I have little doubt about that. And I figured, you know, I'd rather take my chances with something we created than something they created. Remember when I told you that, Guy? Because I was scared.
10 minutes is what changed my and my family's life. 10 minutes. I'm a shell of what I was.
I laid in the hospital for 5 days with no help. And I would be begging them, please help me.
It is not ethical that they sent me home with a walker and an order for a potty chair.
And I'm gonna show you what it looks like to have an injury and what I have to deal with every single day.
My heart is so broken. I can't keep quiet anymore. This is a humanitarian crisis. These people are suffering. This is real disease.
There has to be a recognition of vaccine injury. There are no vaccine injury clinics, and we know there's an epidemic of vaccine injuries. I mean, these are the most toxic medical interventions known to man.
There are millions of people who are suffering. They're being ignored, they're not getting treatment, and they're suffering.